fight in the country as Lands Minister shockingly reveals devastation of forest reserves by illegal miners is comparable to 7,500 football pitches.
The destruction is heartbreaking. We've been reliably informed that roughly 30 hectares is gone. If you add it to the devastation in the other 44 forest reserves, we are talking about 7,500 football fields that has been destroyed. Our friends, most of you are experts. You understand why, as a country, there's the need for us to have these forest reserves.
Tonight on Starr Today, we have assurance from the minister who has promised to revive Ghana's forest reserves, water bodies and biodiversity in the country.
President John Mahama vowed during the course of his campaign that we are going to start a relentless war to save our forests and our water bodies, restore biodiversity, bring back life, and make sure our water bodies are turned blue again.
We will also hear from pro-environmental groups who want the Mahama-led government to go beyond the rhetorics and deliver on its promise to fight the canker. And later, looming public health crisis as BBC undercover work exposes international syndicates involved in importation of unlicensed and illegal, highly addictive opioids said to be negatively affecting Ghana's teeming youth. We have the details for you, plus here from the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, who are calling on law enforcement agencies to step up surveillance at the country's entry points.
Now, this is something that will affect the mental health status of the country, especially the youth. And already Ghana is challenged. Our mental health authority is making sure that it's able to cope up with substance abuse or opioid addiction. So if you don't need this thing in bad, it's going to create even much more trouble for mental health specialists and addicts in the country.
Also ahead in this belt, Volta Regional Minister orders immediate shutdown of Sokode Senior High School following violent clash between students and residents in the community.
We, as Regional Security Council, we have taken a decision which has been communicated duly to the school authorities to temporarily close down the school for us to restore law and order.
Tonight in the bulletin, we place the spotlight on the high rate of students in discipline, plus gauge the thoughts of a former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Charles Aheto Chega. And later, Child Health International and Komfanoche Teaching Hospital provide temporal accommodation for mothers putting up under trees and other uncomfortable places while their children undergo surgical procedures for neurological conditions. We have the details of these and many other stories in this broadcast. Do stay.
Starr News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Starr 103.5 FM.
Thank you very much for your time on Starr Today. I am Tutuwaa Danso. This bulletin is also streaming live on Facebook on Starr 103.5 FM. Now, the Mahama-led government has painted a gloomy picture of the state of the country's fight against the illegal mining menace. According to the Minister of Land and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, the devastation inflicted on the country by the illegal miners is comparable to the destruction of over 7,000 football pitches. Now, speaking during a working visit to the Ashanti region to assess the extent of the destruction in the country's forest reserves, he reiterated Ghana's commitment to restoring the depleting forest reserves, water bodies, and biodiversity. He also assured of urgent governmental action to address the alarming rate of deforestation and environmental degradation, particularly in the Nkaria Forest district, where illegal miners have encroached on protected lands. Take a listen to him.
Fin Shelter Belt. This forest reserve. This is the heart and soul of the Ofin River. And as you can see, the devastation, the decimation, the destruction is heartbreaking. Been reliably informed that roughly 30 hectares is gone. If you add it to the devastation in the other 44 forest reserves, we are talking about 175 football fields. 7,500 football fields that has been destroyed. Our friends, most of you are experts. You understand why, as a country, there's the need for us to have these forest reserves. This is the only reason why we live. This is why we breathe. This is where we get everything that will keep us as human beings alive. So when you see this devastation at the heart of the Ofin River, which takes its source from here, what few of our own people are doing to us is that they have come to basically kill us where it matters most. President John Mahama vowed during the course of his campaign that we are going to start a relentless war to save our forests and our water bodies, restore biodiversity, bring back life, and make sure our water bodies are turned blue again. This fight has just commenced. Thanks to the collaboration of the Interior Minister and the Defense Minister. Just this last week, we began this journey to claim all our forests that has been taken over by armed gangs. I'm very happy to announce that our first step here was very successfully executed. We've driven out, arrested the thugs who have determined to kill all of Ghana. We have seized over 15 excavators. Those you see here are damaged and cannot be moved. We are taking steps to make sure we secure that. This weekend as well, working over on the Ankobra River. We've arrested 8 of their Ghanaian accomplices. The instruction from His Excellency is that we follow this all the way to make sure that justice is done for the people of Ghana.
That was the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofiwa. But let's go over the phone lines now and have a conversation with Awula Sewa. She's the coordinator for Eco-Conscious Citizens. Awula, thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking to you. Now, you had the minister there. He says that the devastation of the illegal mining on the country is comparable to about 7,500 football pitches that have been completely destroyed. This is a shocking revelation, don't you think?
Well, you see, it's no revelation. We've known for a long time that our forest reserves are being decimated. You recall that in September, the organized labor, civil society organizations, GMA, religious bodies, we all came together and said, enough is enough. Something drastic needed to be done. So it's not something we don't know. We know it's going on. So we should have put systems in place to stop the canker. One of the things we asked for was a state of emergency so that the armed forces could go to the forest reserve, remove all illegal miners. In fact, they are environmental terrorists. What they are doing is environmental vandalism. So we said go into the forest reserve, remove the illegal miners, remove their equipment, do the same to the water bodies, and also repeal LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. I mean, who does that? And then we said pause community mining because you're not able to monitor as we stand. And then prosecute, or rather investigate, and where the act falls, prosecute those named in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. You can have special courts that are dealing with this environmental vandalism cases. So the time for lamentation is over. You see, we keep on lamenting, What we need to do is to take the necessary action, implement the solutions, but stop lamenting, telling us so many forest reserves are gone. We know that. And
So, if I understand you, you said the minister is lamenting.
What I'm saying is that we've known the situation for a while.
Right.
In fact, it worsened during the election period where everybody was focusing on campaigning. The forest reserves were just being ravaged. But we've known the situation for a while. It's not today that we've suddenly woken up and found out that our forest reserves are being damaged. We've known that, and that was why before the elections, the political parties were asked to sign a pact. So whilst they were in opposition, since they knew what was going on, systems should have been put in place so that as soon as the president was inaugurated, you start implementing the solutions. I am no fan of President Trump. But at least the things he wanted to do, from day one, he hit the ground running with his negative policies. You knew that this is the situation. What have you been waiting for?
Now, do you think the government is dilly-dallying with the fight? I mean, do you think the government is delaying, in providing the real solutions or making efforts to ensure that at least, there's some sort of fight against illegal mining?
Well, I mean, you tell me from where you are, can you see any robust action being taken? We need to go into the forest reserve. Secure it. But it cannot be a one-day wonder. You go to the forest reserve, if you remove them and you go and sleep, they will go back. So when you go to the forest reserve, you get rid of the machinery, you get rid of the illegal, or shall I say, environmental terrorists. Then you need to have systems in place, have a buffer zone. You see, the excavators are not mobile phones. They are huge equipment. You can see them coming. You've got the national coordinating committee. You have the political authority, you have the chief, you have the police. Hold them accountable. If you've gone and secured the forest reserve, get the committee involved. There's a number they can call as soon as they see an excavator moving on. And there's prompt action. People are arrested, prosecuted. The owners of the excavators are also arrested and prosecuted for facilitating environmental terrorism. You see, if you have a proper planning in place, you can stop this. But if we just keep on lamenting, we're going to do this, and I'm not quite sure what is going on, by the time we decide to take drastic action, we'll have no forest left.
Now, talking about excavators, for instance, we heard from our President Muhammad, I beg your pardon, say that the excavators do not need to be burned, but rather they should only be seized. What's your take on that? Is that a viable solution? Is that deterrent enough?
You see, I am not, I'm an environmentalist. So obviously, burning excavators, the fumes and the toxins that you'll be, it's not something that's my first course of action. But the difficulty is that when the illegal miners find out that you are coming to the forest reserve, they immobilize the excavators, so you can't drive them away. So if you say don't burn them, put the systems in place, have the low loaders, have a way of ensuring that the excavators can be removed from the forest reserve. Because what you don't want is that you leave them in the forest reserve, you go away, the illegal miners come back, or shall I say the environmental terrorists come back, and they continue business as usual, playing a game of hide and seek. So what we need to do is ensure that the excavators are not in a position to be working again. So if you can remove them, that is good. But we do know that under the last administration, some excavators were removed, and we are told that they disappeared. So what we need to do is to really understand what we are doing. All we want is excavators not to be able to be destroying the forest reserves. Yes, it's good to preserve them as evidence, but if you leave them there, you go away, and then all that's going to happen is that work resumes. We won't have achieved anything.
Now, I want to talk about one thing that you raised during your earlier submission about the military, going into the forest reserves. During the minister's vetting, he clearly indicated that instead of using the military to fight galamsey menace, this time round, water guards will be used. You are in the sector. You are an environmentalist. Can this really work?
You see, let's call a spade a spade. You have areas where the environmental terrorists are heavily armed. They even repelled some rapid response teams. They have attacked journalists, beaten some of them almost to death. So when you have a situation like this, there's a war going on. You know, you have to wake up to the fact that this is not a situation where you can try to talk nicely to people. They are heavily armed. And if we don't sit up and understand what is going on, we'll have what is happening in parts of Latin America, where some areas are no-go areas because they are controlled by the drug cartel. This is how it starts. You don't take drastic action. They have more and more money. They get more and more superior weapons. When you wake up and decide to act, they are stronger than you. So what you need to do is to understand that where they are heavily armed, only a stronger force than them can overpower them. We need to wake up to the reality on the ground.
Awula, my final question to you. This Galamsey menace has clearly become, a very problematic development. Now, with the minister coming out to say that what is happening with regards to our forest reserves, the destruction is comparable to about the destruction of 7,500 football pitches. Awula, from where you sit, can this Galamsey canker be nipped in the bud? Do you see enough commitment from the government towards this fight?
You see, I remember some military person saying that if they were left full reign, they can get rid of this canker within a short time. In the past, and even now, the political will hasn't been there. Because let's call a spade a spade. Allegedly, both sides of the political divide have players who are involved. We know what happened under the previous administration. The person's names in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. We have Akonta Mining allegedly involved in destroying parts of the Tano Nimiri Forest Reserve. Under this current regime, we have the MP Fahim Masay and others who have been accused of being involved in illegal mining. You see, we don't want musical chairs. What we really want is an end to this canker, and it can happen. But you need the political will. We need the political will. We need to stop having consultations and meetings and, lamenting, so much has been destroyed. Why are we so surprised? We knew this was going on. And that's why we said before the elections, do something. But the administration refused to take the necessary action. And the current administration, we're in February, they came in December, and I really don't know what we are waiting for to take the bull by the horns and solve the problem. You have national security councils where you have the police authority, you have the chiefs, you have the political authority. They can deal with this problem if they are properly resourced. When we say declare a state of emergency, we mean get the necessary military might, go to the forest reserve, remove the environmental terrorists and their equipment, and then remember that a war is not a one-day affair. It has to be sustained. So when you are moving out, you have put systems in place so that if they try to come back, it's nipped in the bud. But if we just keep on lamenting about how many forest reserves, the number, how many comparable to I don't know how many football pitches, it's not solving the problem. We all know we have a dire situation. We've known it for a long time. We didn't find out today. The challenge is the political will to do something about it, regardless of who is involved, whether they are persons ostensibly close to any party in power or out of power. Deal with them, because what they are doing will destroy us all. There's ecocide going on, poisoning of our water bodies, water is life, and destruction of our forest reserves. It's even unbelievable that as at today's date, I forget today's date, we have not yet repealed LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. This would have shown Ghanaians that the present administration takes this matter seriously. We were able to do oral, where, oral is very, very good, but it's not a matter of life and death. At the end of the day, when you recover all the stolen money, and we are all dead or dying because our water has been poisoned, our food crops have been poisoned, what would we have gained? So whilst you are doing oral, could you not have put systems in place so that by now LI 2462 would have been repealed? What are we waiting for? I'm afraid you cannot convince me that the political will is there to deal robustly with this problem as we should.
Awula, thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking to you. That was Awula Sewa, the coordinator of Eco-Conscious. But still on this development, environmental engineer at the University of Mines and Technology, Dr. Eric Jima, disagrees with the burning of excavators at our river bodies. He spoke to my colleague, Nadede Tete, on Morning Star.
The issue at hand really needs pragmatic measures. Now, if you ask me what is the devastating nature of the menace, I think it's obvious. We all know, regardless of where one finds him or herself, we all know the state of the illegal mining activity. I mean, the effect that is causing to the environment. And we are yet to see how it's going to affect our lives. Though it's ongoing, maybe we've not seen it in that magnitude we expect to see, but if you don't put measures to curtail it, very soon we shall see it happening.
For instance, one of the key things is that they are not going to be burning excavators. Rather they are going to be seizing them. Way to go.
Yeah, thank you. Did the burn of the excavators really do anything in those days that they burnt the excavators? What actually can we talk of as its impact in solving the situation? I think that is what we should ask ourselves. You know, when it comes to this issue of illegal mining or this issue of galamsey, it's high time we have to just sit back and really assess what goes into, because my dear sister, it is a very, very complicated sector that if you don't take care, you may think that one jacket can heal it all. Trust me, it is not. This illegal mining activity is synonymous to saying that a whole community should stop farming. It is like that. Knowing well that farming is a source of livelihood for that particular community, how will you take it? Now, what has the ban of excavator got to do with stopping illegal mining activity? They should come back and give us the statistics. How many excavators did they ban? And how many do we have now? Has the number reduced in the country? I don't know if you get my line of question. I'm not questioning you, but this is what we should be asking ourselves. If you banned a number of excavators those days, how many were there that we banned some? And after now, or after banning, how much do we have now? These are what we should ask ourselves. I don't subscribe to banning of excavators. It is neither here or there. It wouldn't help to solve the problem in any way. Trust me, whoever has money to buy one excavator that you banned can even buy two. So banning, we shouldn't even go there.
So in terms of fighting this illegal mining menace, a lot of people have talked about how, the approach has been wrong in terms of how we have been tackling it. Some have talked about the need to reorient people on why they need to preserve the environment for future generations, among others. How do we come up with a comprehensive approach to fighting this menace?
Yeah, thank you very much. Last Wednesday on the floor of Parliament, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources had the floor to present his message on the issue of this illegal mining activity that is stretching the quality of our environment in this country. Now, the question here is, are you, the host of this particular program, asking me this question? Are you yourself willing to fight illegal mining activity? I think it's high time we should ask ourselves this question. We at the community level, that this issue is affecting us directly. We can see that our water is no longer potable. We can't use it for anything. The question is, are we, the community folks, ready to fight illegal mining activity? I think these are what the engagement should be. So I also come back to sing from the same hymn book you sang, that people of the view that we should do that, what we call sensitization, public education, for them to know the effect, not even now, but a generation to come, that it could be. I believe if we come to understand the nitty-gritty of our actions, we will not just be so much greedy, just seeking for what, but we look at pragmatic ways or good ways of doing the same thing, getting the same result, and not affecting the environment.
That was Dr. Eric Jima. He's an environmental engineer at the University of Mines and Technology.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
Now, former railway minister and immediate past MP for Isikado Ketan constituency, Joe Gatti, has been invited by the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, to assist in investigations into the $2 million SkyTrain scandal. This is the latest in the series of arrests and detentions as the Mahama-led government begins a clampdown of corruption and corruption-related offences involving appointees of the former government. Now, over the weekend, the NIB arrested and later released the former board chairman of the Ghana Infrastructure Investments Fund, Professor Christopher Ameyao Ekumfi, as well as former Deputy Director of the Operations at the National Service Authority, Kweku Ohenijan, popularly known as Osonoba. Also, the Bono Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Kwame Boafo, widely known as Abronya DC, is due for questioning on Wednesday over bribery allegations he made against President Mahama. This is the largest opposition NPP believes is a ploy by the President Mahama to use the National Intelligence Bureau to arrest former appointees of the NPP government. Let's have a conversation on the back of that. And joining us is the lawyer for Professor Ameyawe Kumfi. He is Kenneth Crunchy. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. How is your client and where is he at the moment? Hello, sir. Good evening. Thank you very much for your time on Starr today.
Good evening.
Fantastic. How is your client and where is he at the moment?
At present, as of right now, I have no idea, but he was released to go home yesterday. The last time I checked, around 2 p.m., we were finalizing the details of the bail. So he should be in town somewhere this afternoon.
Okay, right. But how is he faring?
Oh, he's quite okay. When we were leaving the place yesterday, the NIB yesterday, he was quite cheerful. In fact, he was the one talking us up. He was quite cheerful and in very good spirit. Only tired and he wanted to go and sit to one or two persons.
He was quite cheerful?
Quite cheerful, yes, please.
Is that the arrest didn't pose any threats to him whatsoever?
He said?
That means the arrest didn't pose any threats to him whatsoever.
I know these people, they are old war horses. They've been through a lot of experiences in life. So, and he can also come from the royal family. So they are trained to demonstrate a certain safe upper lip and never to show their real emotions under certain conditions. So even if he had an effect, which obviously it may have had, he was not going to go about lamenting about it.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Now,
not that type of individual.
What did the operatives of the NIB tell you was the exact cause of his arrest?
The reason the interview was about Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund and certain decisions that was taken by that board. Unfortunately, I'm unable to go into specifics of the interview, but it spanned over 1 hour, 2 hours of talking. So there were a lot of things, a lot of water that passed under the bridge in that time. But I'm unable to go into specifics, obviously, because if they finalize their investigation, they may be looking at criminal prosecution, and we have to be careful how we talk about these matters in the media, beyond the fact that we believe in the innocence of our clients.
Even though you say that you're not able to go to the specifics of the case, they are corruption-related issues, aren't they?
They are, we also have in this country. Corruption-related issue is a very broad terminology that found into some law in our country. Is one of the things that have, for instance, in the Supreme Court currently challenging. It has to do with certain decisions that they made as a board, as a group of, I think, nine-member board to do with the disbursement of public funds. If that is corruption related, then well, that is it.
But you are unable to tell us the exact charge.
Yes, it has to do with causing financial loss. As to whether it was for the building of an airport or whatever, I'm unable to go into it.
And how does your client respond to all of these allegations leveled against him, especially because...
You will continue with the question.
I mean, I just want to find out how he's responding because, as you say, causing financial loss is quite a serious, allegation.
These matters happened between the 2017 to 2021 administration of Nana Danso Akufo-Addo. That is the first term. So it's been some years. Obviously, it is necessary that reference is made to some documents and reports because this is a matter that has also been audited by the Auditor General. I understand gone before the Public Accounts Committee or about to go before the Public Accounts Committee. So it is something that is in the past. There will be a necessity to make references to various documentations and reports and the reports and minutes of the board meeting and how that thing came before the board. All manner of things has to be done. So we will see if they're able to, in their opinion, gather enough evidence to mount a prima facie case for a court of law. Then we the lawyers will come in and then see what we can do.
So he's been invited for questioning. He's been released. What's next for you?
He was invited for questioning, and then when we went to the place, the invitation turned into an arrest. What next is that we wait for them. Let them gather their information. If they think they have enough to mount a case in a court of law, we will meet them in that court of law.
Counsel, thank you very much for your time. That was Ken Cruncher. He's the counsel for Professor Ameyaw Ekumfi. He is one of the persons that was invited over the weekend by the NIB for questioning. Now, but we understand that the arrest, invitation for questioning eventually culminated into an arrest. And Professor Ameyaw Ekumfi, as we heard from his counsel, was invited by the NIB on charges of causing financial loss to the state as the board chairman of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. But the council is unable to, review a lot of information to us at this point. He says that they are waiting for the NIB to gather enough or adequate information so that it can build up a case. But we'll still have a conversation because the opposition NPP has raised serious concerns about this operation of the NIB, indicating that it is a move in a bit to arrest appointees of the former NPP government. But this is what Henry Nana Boakye, the national organizer of the New Patriotic Party, posted on his social media pages, and he says that the NIB, formerly known as BNI, did not take any action or make any arrest or even extend any invitation to anyone regarding these false allegations and attacks made by some NDC members targeted at President Akufo-Addo. However, when Chairman Abronya questioned President Mahama about the allocation of the 550 million cedis budgeted for newly recruited personnel, especially in the light of his mass dismissal and termination of their employment, he's been summoned by the NIB. If no one was summoned or arrested for making false allegations against former President Nana while he was in office, why should Chairman Abronya be invited for legitimately questioning the allocation of budgeted funds for personnel who have been dismissed by President Mahama? The NIB should expect the Elephant Soldiers, led by our General Secretary, Justin Kodia Frimpong, to accompany Chairman Abronya. This week, President Mahama and his enablers plan to use the NIB to arrest several former appointees of the NPP administration of false corruption accusations against Akufo-Addo by the NDC, which never attracted the attention of NIB. He goes on to list a number of them. I'll just read one of them, and it says that corruption, nepotism, theft, criminality, hallmarks of Akufo-Addo's administration that is attributed to President John Dramani Mahama. We were trying to have a conversation with him, but all calls to him have gone unanswered. So maybe we do get that. We'll get him on the phone line to have a conversation. This is still Starr today here on Starr FM.
Today, first, fast, and credible.
Let's talk about health now, because the country is facing a looming public health crisis after a BBC undercover work exposed an international syndicate involved in the importation of unlicensed and illegal, highly addictive opioids said to be negatively affecting Ghana's teeming youth. An Indian pharmaceutical company is said to be the brain behind manufacturing and exporting the drugs illegally to Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and other West African countries. Well, the documentary has raised public health concerns about how the West African countries ought to critically address the issue, as well as the porous nature of borders. According to the World Health Organization, the drug is not licensed for use anywhere in the world and can cause breathing difficulties and seizures. Well, despite the risks, these opioids are popular as street drugs in many West African countries because they are so cheap and widely available. Here are excerpts of that documentary.
been told that opioids were being smuggled across the border into Nigeria from Ghana. So I made contact with journalist Yaya Masuhudu. He's based in Tamale in northern Ghana, a city that's been hit hard by a recent rise in opioid use.
I was born and bred in Tamale. I've spent almost all my life in Tamale. These drugs are destroying families, destroying young men and women with potential who otherwise would have been able to help in developing this country. The local chief is so concerned that he's given the go-ahead for a citizens' task force. Its aim is to find opioids on the streets and track down the dealers.
I'm Zike, and this is Chairman Jamal, Operation Leader.
Zike is a local radio presenter and a leader of the task force.
It's made up of. Our intelligence doesn't come in a one particular mode. Sometimes based on tip-off, sometimes based on the inhabitants of that particular village, sometimes a parent of the addicted children. They will give us the information. It will lead us to where they are selling it.
Also leading today's raid is Bikoko. He runs a bakery in the center of Tamale.
The Food and Drugs Board, they are the supposed authority to fight on it. And they are not. So what do? We have to try all our best as a community to see the best we can do. That is what we are doing. We are aware those addicted to it, they are our brothers. We need to rescue them.
We are getting close to the location. They'll be raiding the place to see if they can get some of the drugs. Today's tip-off has led the task force to one of the ghettos, the poorest neighborhoods in Tamale.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. What is happening right now is the task force is here to arrest the drug dealers.
It's those off.
It's an addict who has taken the drugs.
This place is being invaded by the drug peddlers. Both the dealers, the tickets, everybody is here. So that's why we are here this afternoon, to see their source of where they are getting the drugs.
When you wrap it this way, I don't know anything. He just came and said that he's coming. Ask this guy. I'm just sitting with him. Ask where his name is. I don't deal drugs.
This is what they found here with just one raid. Yeah. This is what happens almost on a daily basis with the task force.
Yeah.
The task force detains several men who are found with opioids on them.
zirbi dala tar so kante ba marsa manin nanu dulu ko non la so tubila non walan kala sar ko min
so an yurlama afan ko kanja de pu mula kar sonda
mun ya fa she just da mun ba regret
ko so kan avande
comme nous valons maybe Niger nous valons hakat kumima Niger ka kuyer pension nous valons ni bele yalla
tumba
kon bache
The task force takes the suspected dealers back to the chief's palace to continue the interrogation. The main idea behind the interrogation is to get to find out who the suppliers are. The chief adjudicates the matter and someone is found guilty. The person is fined some amount of money.
After everything, we're going to ask this guy, the yellow guy, a question because the quantity of the drug it was holding is much. There's a little bit massage, you know. You tell me the truth. You got this medicine. So who will be your supplier? You don't know the supplier. You see how you disgrace yourself to this low. Look at kids are watching you. So you want to destroy people's children. Do you have a wife? Do you have a wife? How many children? You are lucky today. Today is my good day. You are lucky. I know. Don't call me Mr. Jamal. You are proving me what?
The man in yellow is just a small-time local dealer. But who is at the top of this chain? Who is making these tablets and shipping them by the millions into Africa? This is what the task force seized. This packet is all we've got to go on, but it does offer a few clues.
Hi, it's Ravi.
Hi, Aya. Good to see you.
Did you get the photos I sent you from the raid the task force did the other day?
Yeah, I have them pulled up on my computer now.
The product is called Tafrodol. The Ghanaian FDA have confirmed to me the product is illegal in Ghana. It's made of two substances. One is called tapentadol. The other is carisoprodol.
Then I can also see that it says made in India. And if I zoom into the corner, there's a logo with an A and a leaf.
It's important to look into that and to find out who is responsible for bringing the product into West Africa. The task force is trying to catch the traders and smugglers, but it's the source that needs to be stopped.
So let me start there and I'll get back to you when I have more information. So what exactly is Tafrodol? The packet says it's made of two ingredients. Tapentadol, an opioid like tramadol, but twice as potent. Mixed with carisoprodol, a muscle relaxant so strong, it's banned in many parts of the world.
Well, those were excerpts of that BBC documentary with details opioids from India, which have found its way to the West African markets, causing a lot of harm to the teeming youth of people in Ghana, Nigeria, and of course Cote d'Ivoire. And the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is calling on the Food and Drugs Authority and the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to immediately intensify surveillance at entry points of the country to prevent importation of these illegal and unlicensed drugs. They made this call in a statement, and I have here with me my colleague Nurain Abbas to help me with the details of the statement. Nurain, thank you very much. What is the association saying?
Well, good evening, Tutuwaa. You have summarized everything for our listeners. As you said, it is a statement from the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana urging the Food and Drugs Authority and officials of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to intensify surveillance to prevent illegal products from entering the country. Now, the statement is with me here. I'm going to read excerpt of it. Okay. It says that the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana has taken keen interest in the recent media investigative reports, including the BBC Africa Eye documentary, which sought to expose the illegal importation and distribution of highly dangerous opioids into Ghana and other West African countries. As a professional body representing pharmacists and pharmaceutical stakeholders in Ghana, PSGH unequivocally condemns the proliferation of unapproved and harmful pharmaceutical products, particularly those containing tapentadol and carisoprodol, which pose severe health risks. Now, it goes on to say that the recommendations that they provided, it goes on to say, let me take that part for you. It says that they gave 5 recommendations. First, they said the Ghana Revenue Authority, Customs Division, and the Ghana Immigration Service and the FDA should strengthen surveillance at entry points to prevent the importation of unapproved drugs. Secondly, strict measure. It says the FDA and Pharmacy Council should intensify monitoring of pharmaceutical imports and enforce stricter penalties for non-compliance. The third, it says law enforcement agencies, health regulators, and professional bodies must work together to dismantle illicit pharmaceutical networks and protect the Ghanaian public. The fourth one says pharmacists, healthcare professionals, and civil society organizations must actively educate the public about the dangers of opioid abuse and promote responsible medication use. And finally, it says the government of Ghana should collaborate with Indian regulatory bodies and global health organizations to prevent the exportation of unlicensed drugs into West Africa. So basically, these are the 5 recommendations from the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Tutuwaa.
Okay, Nureen, thank you very much for those updates there. That's my colleague, Nureen Abbas. But let's go over the phone lines and have a conversation on the back of this. We've been joined by Dr. Richmond Edusapoku. He's the executive member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Doc, thank you very much for your time this evening on the bulletin. Now, you say this development is quite worrying. Why so?
It is worrying because it has grave consequences for our public health. I mean, these are medications that if the youth take, it will clearly cause them to be addicted, and then they will to affect their mental health. And already we are challenged in terms of budgetary response, even for our mental health services in this country. The mental health authority really needs a lot of money to be able to already manage the existing mental health diseases, which it's not getting from government. So if we now add on to this by virtue of these new medications on the market and addiction increases, it only strains the national purse and the purse of the mental health authority. So that's why we are very, very much interested. But apart from that, apart from the public health and mental health issues, mind you, it also affects our security, our national security. It's critical because we've seen that many of these medications, they may find themselves, let's say, up north, in Tamale where the investigations went on, but they may not get a residual portion maybe in here. Majority of them may be trafficked through Burkina to Mali and to Niger, all these Sahelian regions. And you know warfare, how it goes on in these regions. You may fuel these things over there because they get high and then they can commit a lot of atrocities. And therefore, we will not want Ghana to be a hub, a distribution hub for this type of opioids.
Do you think that the immigration service has failed, in protecting the country from some of these things?
Not necessarily immigration service. I mean, these are drug smugglers, and vigilance is needed. So as for immigration service, they always have to be on the lookout. All our land borders. And you know that these smugglers may not necessarily use the normal routes where cars, move across our country into neighboring countries. They may run it through very narrow paths using drug smugglers, couriers, etc. And they may even evade our security services. So they must rather create some innovative, solutions to be able to try and nip these things really in the bud. And not only with immigration acts with the land borders, also even with our seaports like Tema. Sometimes these smugglers may even mislabel the container. It may contain certain items, but beneath these items may be these opioids. So it calls for real vigilance.
But in the interim, how do you propose that we nip the situation in the bud? Because, I mean, even though the investigations were carried out in the northern region, I believe that it can, spread to other parts of the country.
Yes. So that's why the Political Society of Ghana, as the leading, experts on medicines, we are calling on the governmental agencies. We are calling on the National Intelligence Bureau, the NIB, which used to be BNI. We are calling on the other security services, for instance, the National Narcotics Control Board. We are calling on some of the regulatory agencies. By default, they handle these things, the FDA of Ghana and the Pharmacy Council. We are calling on the immigration, as you rightly said. And so all these agencies, and of course the Criminal Investigation Department of the Ghana Police Services, all these groups shouldn't work in silos. We are calling all of them to form a multi-agency task force so that investigations can clearly go on. We are not looking for those small drug pushers along the lanes of Tamale or elsewhere. We are looking for who is actually bringing these medicines into the country. At least we know the manufacturer, but who is bringing it in. Once you're able to cut that link, it means that we are safe.
See, but Doc, talking about safety, just how dangerous are these drugs?
These are drugs that, in fact, the tabernacle, for instance, has a potential or the power of it is like twice that of tramadol. I'm sure you've heard of tramadol before. So these are strong painkillers. And unlike tramadol, which we use in our hospitals, this type of medications is not even registered at the Food and Drugs Authority. And therefore, it can clearly be abused, where if somebody does very hard work, maybe galamsey, he goes to take these medications, it aborts all types of pain, but it's highly addictive. And when you take an overdose, it may depress your respiration. So the way you breathe, it may go down and you may die. Again, the addictive nature of it. So you take it and then you have to keep on taking it. And after a while, when you take it for a while, you get tolerance. That initial dose will not suffice. You may want to double it. And who knows, before you realize your heart is gone. Your heart is just burst. So these are challenges which affect the life, the quality of life of people who may be addicted. And of course, the health burden is massive. The mental health status, the person's mental faculties may not be working when the person is addicted. So that's why we want to prevent all these things.
Absolutely, Doc. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on this development. That was Dr. Richmond Idusapuku. He's executive member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Still staying on health, and President John Dramani Mahama has revealed that only one hospital under the Agenda 111 project has been completed since his administration took office, a development he believes will place an immense burden on the country's finances. While speaking at a meeting with the Christian Council, the president disclosed that the government would need $1.7 billion to complete and operationalize the remaining hospitals. He further suggested that the religious missions could take charge of some of the incomplete hospitals, complete them, and complete their construction and manage them.
If the missions have a hospital in an area, we're not going to come and compete with the mission by building another hospital. We'd rather use the resources to improve the mission hospital so that it provides service. Unfortunately, that was not followed in Agenda 111. So there are many places where you have a mission hospital. We could have used that money to upgrade the facilities in the mission hospital. Government has gone to start a hospital, has not been able to finish it, and they are sitting there, some at foundation level, some at lintel level. And so many of them, almost 90 hospitals. We need 1.7 billion to be able to complete the hospitals. The one that they said they commissioned, there's nothing in it, just one hospital. They finished the structure, but there's not even a bed in the hospital. And so we discussed it a bit in cabinet, but the Minister of Health is going to come with a paper to see what we do. You know, I believe that if some of the missions are interested, we could get them to finish the hospital and manage the hospital and provide the service, you know, so that government who can find it to be a mix. We can also raise money and finish some, but the mission hospitals too can take some and complete them and run the hospital.
That was President John Dramani Mahama there, indicating that the country would need about $1.7 billion to complete the remaining Agenda 111 project. As he says that currently, just one hospital out of the lot have been completed, a situation that will place a burden on our country's public purse. And so he's asking the Christian missions to also partner with the government, take charge of some of these hospitals, complete them, and manage them after they are completed. But let's go over the phone lines now for a conversation. I have with me Dr. Efia Amwako. She's a 2024 campaign spokesperson on health for the New Patriotic Party. Doc, it's a pleasure to have you on the bulletin. Now, you heard what President Mahama said, that only one hospital was completed by your government, which is in contrast to what you repeatedly told Ghanaians in the build-up to the 2024 elections. How do you respond to this?
Okay, first let me say good evening to all your lovely viewers. Sorry, your listeners. I guess I'm used to having viewers. Anyway, so let's get straight to it. I'm just trying to find now the list of all the hospital projects the MPP government undertook during the 8-year tenure. The whole idea of Agenda 111, a very ambitious project that we started in 2022, mind you, which people seem to conveniently forget. So aside that, I want us to quickly look at how many hospitals we were able to complete during the tenure so that we can situate this conversation better. And then I'll give my remarks on what I think about what the president said. So just give me a second. I think even I've been on your show before, and I said besides Agenda 111, we've completed about 47 health projects that's started and completed by us. About 25 of them are hospital projects, district hospitals, and the others are polyclinics. So that even includes the UGMC Phase 2, the Urology and Nephrology Center in Kolebu, the Bolgatanga Regional Hospital Phase 3, modernizations of the Ebri Hospital, Etibe Hospital, and the Kibi Hospital. So that's about 47 there. We also completed 6 of the 9 Eurojex projects that we inherited, which is the Gais, War Regional, and Soko Tepa, Chifu, Praso, Konongo, and Sewa that we recently commissioned before our exit. There are some that we started that we are unable to complete, about 12 of those. I will not bore you by going over those details. And then the 13 treatment and holding centers that we also started after COVID that we've been able to complete. So the point of everything that I'm saying is that we undertook a lot of health infrastructure projects during our tenure, a lot of which we completed. The Agenda 111 promise was made somewhere in 2022. And I think before the election, we did come out to tell the people of Ghana that we had completed 3. And so we are sticking to that record. I think you as a media station can even go and verify. Now, we finished the Agenda 111 hospital in Trede, Oforikum in the Ashanti region. So 1 in Trede, 1 in Oforikum, all in the Ashanti region. And they are Hunter West Hospital. These 3 hospitals were completed and commissioned by former President Nana Akufo-Addo. So I think what is important, or what the people of Ghana and me personally would expect from the current president, is to go ahead and do exactly what we did when we came into office. When we came into office, the UGMC hospital had almost been completed. It was about 80 to 90% complete. What we did was to quickly try and complete that project and operationalize it, So I was hoping that he would talk about plans to operationalize the 3 Agenda 111 hospitals, because by the information I have, we've commissioned those hospitals, but no work is going on there. So I would have thought the conversation would be to operationalize those hospitals and to think of ways to complete it, because we did have a plan of how we were going to finance it. We didn't think the very ambitious Agenda 111 project was going to be cheap. We just knew that the costs, the benefits of completing that ambitious project outweighed the costs, and they were not that outrageous. If you look at the amount of money we spent on the modernization of Ridge Hospital and UGMC, just phase 1, between those 2 hospitals, we've already passed $500 million. So if we want to put together money to be able to finish Agenda 111 hospitals, and the new government has come in, we would expect that he would be very much interested in hitting the ground running as soon as possible, trying to operationalize those hospitals and completing the others like he promised he would on the campaign trail. There are very pressing issues that are facing our health sector currently, like the outbreak of meningitis up north.
Doc, we will definitely delve into that shortly, but you're confident that at least your government completed about 3 of these Agenda 111 hospitals that you talk about?
3 of these hospitals, Tutuwaa, you can go to these places and see.
No problem, but what I want to find out from you is that we know what goes into making a hospital operational. It is not just about putting up the building, but the machines needed, the wards, the theaters, and all of that. Are these complete hospitals?
Yes, I will send you pictures of, I think I have the pictures of Oforikum, some pictures of Trade, and a video of Ahanta before it was commissioned. So the fittings are in I can even, please hold on a second, let me read some details that I gathered for you.
No problem, but just for the purpose of the listeners, are these hospitals complete?
They are complete. These 3 hospitals are complete and have been commissioned. They are yet to be operationalized.
Okay.
So that is what we would expect that the conversation is about, because the campaign season is duly over, and now we expect governance to go on because there are really pressing issues.
Former President Nikufuado also announced that 70% of the Agenda 111 hospitals dotted across the country is complete. Is that the case? Because the President Mahama...
What did he say? I think he said a lot of the projects were at over 70% complete.
70% complete, yes.
Yes. So that is also true, which I'm sure now that a change in government has happened, they will review all of that and see. The projects are dotted around the country, and all they need to do is do a tour, and then they will be able to evaluate. Because some of the sites I have visited personally, like the ones up north, are about 70% complete. And these things are not said by just the government. There are contractors involved that will give us the information that we are relaying to you. But we don't build these hospitals personally.
But if that is the case, why does the country need $1.7 billion to complete the project?
Tutuwaa, I don't know if you are aware of how much we had even set out for the whole Agenda 111 initiative. It was even a little more than that. It was a very ambitious project. Something like that has never happened in the whole of West Africa or even Africa, if I'm not wrong. It is building 100-bed hospital in every district, and then building 7 regional hospitals for all the other regions that don't have regional hospitals. Those are more than 100 beds. And building 1 psychiatric national center and 2 regional psychiatric hospitals. It is a huge undertaking. We didn't run away from that fact. And if you look at how much is spent on hospital projects, like I just said, UGMC phase 1 alone, it cost $330 million, only phase 1. The hospital modernization, just phase 1 of that was not even building the whole hospital from scratch. That cost over $220 million. So I don't think we ever ran away from the cost that was going to be incurred by this project. And we had plans to be able to finish them. We had plans to be able to find the money to be able to complete those hospitals. So again, as I said, it's about getting the ball rolling. And Firstly, operationalizing those hospitals, because people are at home waiting to be posted. You know, as I said, there are way more pressing issues.
I get it, but so that means that the president didn't lie when he says that the country needs about $1.7 billion. I just want that clarity.
Oh yes, it's by our estimation. The last time the former health minister even spoke, I think the figure he gave was even a little above that.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, and that was the total cost of the, let me just clarify this, that was the total cost of the project. As to how much of that money he needed at that time had gone in, I'm not completely sure.
Thank you very much.
The cost of Agenda 11 was even more than that. So I don't think anything new has been said.
Thank you so much. That was Dr. Efia Mwakwa, she's the 2024 campaign spokesperson on health for the New Patriotic Party.
Today, first, fast, and credible.
You are still listening to Starr today here on Starr FM. I am Tutuwaa Danso. Now, some members of parliament have slammed the former Minister for Information, Fatima Abubakar, for describing NDC MPs as illiterate, leading to their inability to express themselves well on the floor of the House using the English language. Speaking on the floor of Parliament, the NDC MP for Kaikwe North, Theresa Ladiawini, as well as other offended MPs, condemned the statement as unfortunate, while stressing the fact that English is not indigenous to Ghanaians.
Recently, our former information minister was heard on radio saying MPs on this side cannot speak in Parliament because we cannot express ourselves in the English language. This is an information minister. This is somebody who was our information minister. She is my very good friend, and her statements were unfortunate. And so I'll plead that we should be the ones out there to chart the path for everybody to follow.
So if you're saying that someone cannot express themselves because they cannot speak English properly, I think that is very unfortunate. And so I don't agree with her. I honestly believe that indeed it is one thing speaking amongst people, and it's another thing speaking when you have just a person or two. Some people really do not have that courage to be able to speak when there is large audience. And so I think that is actually the problem, and not the fact that they cannot speak English. I don't think that's the problem.
You just heard some NDC MPs there, obviously expressing their displeasure about a statement made by the former Information Minister Fatima Abubakar. Now, commercial motorcycle riders, popularly known as Okada riders in the Greater Accra region, are currently benefiting from a 5-day intensive free training in safety and traffic regulations. Well, the training organized by Gold Coast Mobility and Innovations Limited at the State Transport Corporation, STC Driver Training School, seeks to enhance the knowledge of the riders to promote road safety for all commuters. There are more details in this report.
The first cohort of 100 Okada riders expressed enthusiasm for the free training. According to them, the Okada business has lifted their economic status as they are able to cater for their families and beyond. They therefore lauded the initiative to have their knowledge enhanced in maneuvering in accordance with traffic regulations to prevent fatalities and other hazards associated with the trade.
Some road signs, I ever met them before, but I was not even taking time to look at it. But today's program made me feel that, I was risking my own life for me seeing it and not taking care of or taking note of that listen. So I see to it that the program is very good and it will help us.
We now a benefit of one kasankasa. Because unimadia na udipie ka kwanswa unkwa problems a udibenya wo kwan no because of learning nti unyede untiminya sa problems no. Because learning kurampo a utimi de ko obi nam ne babia na obi timi suade but wa wan sua no unya de apie kwan no so no na o de problems ama mbemu.
Dr. Prosper Deti, Chief Finance Officer of Gold Coast Mobility and Innovations, organizers of the training, highlighted the importance of effective training of the riders as their business has reduced the rate of unemployment in the country. He further called on the government to expedite the processes for regularizing the operations of the Okada business.
Our mission vision is to bring innovative mobility. This is a private limited liability company. We are empowering our riders. But if government decides to come on board to bring collaboration, so we'll be able to have a fast and safe, convenient motor riding, our doors are open. And that is what we are in for. If you look at the enthusiasm of the riders, this morning they are here, and speaking to them, they said this is what they need.
The training is expected to be replicated across the 16 regions of the country to allow for all Okada operators in the country to conform with safety and traffic regulations as pertained in other parts of the world.
Academic and administrative activities have come to a complete halt at the Sokode Senior High School in the Volta region, while the school was shut down following violent clashes between students of the school and residents of the community. According to reports, the unrest, which began on Friday, escalated through the weekend when some students entered the community without permission, leading to the clash. Now, to prevent any escalation, the Volta Regional Security Council and the regional minister, James Gunu, announced the school's closure after emergency meetings with school authorities and community leaders.
There's some breakdown of good relationship between the Sokode Bogama community and the school. We are trying to rebuild that relationship. And so far, the situation is under control. We, as Regional Security Council, we have taken a decision which has been communicated duly to the school authorities to temporarily close down the school for us to restore law and order. And then I'm also told the school is supposed to vacate in the next few days. So this will not affect anything so much, but we want the environment for teaching and learning to be peaceful for both the students and the teachers. And we want a situation where the community will see the school as their property.
That was the Volta Regional Minister there, James Gunu, indicating why the school, the Sokode Senior High School in the Volta region, has to be shut down. And this follows a violent clash that happened between students and the school and residents of the community. Well, the reports indicate that the students had entered the community without permission, leading to the clash. And in a bid to prevent any further escalation, the Volta Regional Minister and the Regional Security Council have announced the closure of the school after the emergency meeting with school authorities and community leaders. We are trying to have a conversation on the back of this development. We want to understand, the high rate of indiscipline in senior high schools. What is causing this? How are we going to solve this? We'll have a conversation on the back of that shortly with a former Director General of the Ghana Education Service, and he's joined us now. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this evening on the bulletin. This development only adds on to the high rate of indiscipline we have witnessed in the senior high schools. What's your immediate reaction?
Is that to me?
That's to you.
Yeah, okay, good. You broke it. Good evening to your listeners, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this session. Well, I'm getting worried because this is becoming one too many, and I think that there is a need for the education services people to really pay attention to the situation and see what exactly the problem is and they nip it in the bud.
The last time we spoke about, indiscipline in senior high schools, you were very optimistic that the parent-teacher partnership was going to resolve the issue. And now we have this situation on our hand. What do you think is going on?
Yes. So I still hold on to that view that parent-teacher partnership would really reduce this tendency. if it is still happening, then we may still want to look at the level of interaction between parents and their children and then the school to be able to appreciate some of this confusion that goes on. It only means that we are probably not doing enough to ensure that that particular collaboration and connection with parents really work the way we want it to work. So, yes, the opportunity is still there for us to do something about that problem. And I still believe that if we interact with parents, especially even in the community, we can get very far in ensuring that we bring solution to some of these things.
Now, according to the reports, the clash erupted because the students went into the community without seeking permission from the school. Would you in any way blame school authorities for this?
You see, we have very strict rules about movement from the school into the community. So there will be a need to explain what and the children there. And I don't know very much about that situation, but I still believe that maybe somebody from the town to do things, and a couple of students or a group of them broke bounds and wanting to do certain things. But again, that is where we really need to ensure the community and school relations are properly coordinated so that we can address some of these problems, and then really ensure that when this occurs and there is actually a breaking of bounds by students, we find opportunity to bring parents, let them understand that their children didn't have any permission to do what they did. So there are a number of things that we need to investigate into this matter, and I don't know whether the real reasons are coming up for us to be able to deal with this. I still believe that there's an opportunity for us to interact and ensure that all the loose ends from the community side, parental side, school side are tied to ensure that our children behave well in their schools.
Now, if we are to compare the level of indiscipline in our senior high schools now to previously, it's clearly on the rise. And people have said that it is because we have withdrawn the corporal punishments from senior high schools. That is the reason we are seeing this. Is it time to have a conversation on the reintroduction of corporal punishments in our senior high schools?
This is never the time to have any discussion about corporal punishment. It's something that all of us have agreed that it is a level of an abuse of the rights of the child and all of that. But I think that what we can do is that probably certain things that happened under the free SHS provided opportunity for students to misbehave. And again, I go back to my parental responsibility. Because again, you have parents who, when their child does anything and they are reprimanded, they go into the school and want to misbehave. Well, those are the things that we should continue to look at. Because if the parents, quote unquote, pamper their children, then they are creating opportunity for them to not particularly coordinate within the school setting, and for that matter, become a problem to the headmaster and his assistants.
Should we lay the blame on the doorstep of parents as well? Because you say that some of the parents pamper their wards.
Yeah, I mean that's a fact. When you take certain measures against children, they are the ones who will go either to somebody they know in the top and begin to put headmasters under pressure, or some of them will go on their own volition and take action. So then we are looking at parents doing certain things unbecoming and making the disciplining of their children very, very difficult. So we are looking at ensuring that all those problems are dealt with and that we are able to bring order into our schools again. The parents are very important in this process, and we do not think we can leave parents out of this discussion when we want to take any action.
Now, in the past, you'd have parents, sending their wards to schools, giving them to teachers to discipline them. But now we don't have that. It's as if there are no checks in the senior high schools. Is that not also contributing to what we are seeing now?
No, we were people of a certain mentality. Just as you said, it is not time to bring back corporal punishment. And we have moved. And for as a country, we should move. And as we grow as a people, we should move. We should accept that corporal punishment is not the best form of punishment for children. It can be employed at a certain point in time, but it is not an approach that we want to use to handle every situation that is in school. So those times when parents took their children there, those were just to put the fear of God in them. But I mean, we have certain conditions and situations where you have even people, men of God and others, even saying that, I mean, if you are walking out of town, you cannot discipline somebody's child and all of that. In the past, people could see a child and reprimand and say that you stop what you are doing, and the child will stop.
And this fear of God you talk about led to discipline. Yeah. In fact, in the Bible, it is stated that you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Yes, but I mean, again, in fact, it is a contextual issue, and I don't think that everything was done and people were being lashed. I don't think that my Bible knowledge actually tells me that people were lashed here and there in the old time Israel to sort of buttress that point. It wasn't even happening the way we say. But that was a certain admonishment for people to employ that. But what we are saying is that it is not only taking the child to go and be whipped in the school that makes him be a good boy or a good girl. There are a number of other things that we have realized, and those are the things that we want to be using to bring children to order, amidst the fact that we want to educate parents to accept that other people can discipline their children apart from them alone. So those are the kinds of contexts that we want to see happening in schools when it comes to discipline of children.
Okay. Now, what are some of the lasting solutions that you'd propose? What do you think what role can parents play? Can teachers play? Stakeholders. What role can all of these persons play so that we see indiscipline in our high schools nipped in the bud?
Yes. Specific role is that parents must always be informed about various acts of indiscipline of their children, and they must have patience, listen, and appreciate the decisions that the schools want to take and heed by them, so that the discipline can be there. Teachers can also ensure that they take the children through the right process of what the lawyers say, that if there is a problem, you listen to the other side, and ensure that there's a balance in terms of how to handle the things that the children do, so that parents can appreciate the level of punishment that they want to give to children. So I think those are the kinds of things that we want to see, and not get parents beginning to talk back at teachers because your child has done something wrong, and they say, take the child home and spend some time with the child, or talk to the child and do something. You say, you come and then you start saying, no, the child has, I mean, so many things. So we want to see a cooperation with parents to ensure that the discipline is mutual in order to ensure that our children are well behaved.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Charles Yahoo Ahetochega, former Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Now, human rights organization Amnesty International is urging the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, to take steps to abolish the death penalty for treason offences in Ghana. Although Ghana has abolished the death penalty for crimes like murder, it remains a punishable offence for treason, terrorism, and counterfeiting. The inconsistency makes it challenging for Ghana to be recognized as a country that has fully abolished the death penalty. To advocate for its abolition, Amnesty International's country director, Genevieve Partington, and her team met with the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, to discuss efforts so far and the need to abolish death sentence completely from the country's laws and the future of the witchcraft bill.
International always has a great relationship with Office of the Attorney General, so we found it prudent to come here and introduce ourselves. He already knows us anyway, but it was good to have an official courtesy call just to discuss some of the human rights issues that we work on. One in particular was the death penalty. Although Ghana has partially abolished the death penalty here, there are still issues with the Constitution. For example, we still have embedded in our Constitution that death penalty for treason still exists. And with that clause, Amnesty International cannot recognize Ghana as abolitionist in practice. So we came here to appeal to him to just ensure that for the constitutional review, this particular clause in the Constitution is addressed and the death penalty is completely removed from our books. Another thing we spoke about was the witchcraft accusations bill. We all know that it was passed in Parliament, but the previous government refused to assent to the bill. So we wanted to inquire what's next. It's a private member's bill, I must say. So there's bills that have been relapsed in Parliament, and the issue is it's going to start the process again in Parliament. With private members' bills, only those that introduce the bills in Parliament can refer the bill to Attorney General's office if they want government to carry the bill forward. However, it can be reintroduced into Parliament as a private member's bill, and we have to start the process again. Process can take weeks, it can take months, it can take years, but we are hopeful that it will be, seen to immediately, and Parliament will prioritize this.
That was Genevieve Partington, the country director for Amnesty International. Now, the Confanoche Teaching Hospital and its partners have come to the aid of mothers with children suffering from hydrocephalus and spina bifida, two neuro conditions related to the brain and spinal cords of infants. The mothers, most of whom travel far, have to put up on the compounds of the hospital while their children go through days of tests and surgical procedures. This compounds are the social and financial burdens of these parents, forcing many to abandon treatment. A new facility questioned the House of Hope has been set up to offer temporary accommodation to these parents and their children to ease their plight. Ultimate News' Ivan Hidkut Fumador has the rest of the story.
At 6 months, little Andy Kofi Nkrumah had his first surgical operation for spina bifida, a malformation of the spinal cord which leaves a gap in the spine with dire consequences for brain and structural development.
Surgery over 6 months. Like say on tenase on yeyi. Na yes answer area what here no. Say the omo kan fa ho sa akra ne yensuo ba.
For many children with spinal bifida, cerebrospinal fluids accumulate in their brain, causing an abnormal swelling of the head, a condition called hydrocephalus. Little Perseus Apiawapra had to undergo a double surgery for both conditions when he was just 6 months old. Charlotte Edu is his mother.
We are week. We are Wednesday week. And
these mothers have overcome myths associating their babies with curses and river gods, cultural beliefs that have driven such parents to do the unthinkable to end young lives. For a condition that demands attention from a team of multidisciplinary specialists, including neuro and reconstructive surgeons, the next biggest hurdle is the cost of medical care. Dr. Tony Lamina is the head of neurosurgery at the Confanoche Teaching Hospital.
The cost is massive on them. The cost is massive on the health care system. And luckily for us, we are being supported with even when people have to put in tubes like the shunt. So when it comes to cost, the theater time, the inhalation, anesthesia, those who are going to work on this kit, the man hours, the supplies, disposables you're going to use on them, it's no joke.
Another compounding factor worsening the plight of these mothers is the burden of finding accommodation while their children undergo surgical procedure. Deputy Medical Director for the Confanoche Teaching Hospital, Dr. Yao Parilabi, describes the harrowing conditions mothers, especially those traveling from afar, have to endure, putting up in corridors and open spaces for days in the hospital.
They come from different parts of the country to Confanoche. Confanoche itself receives referrals from 12 out of the 16 regions of Ghana by way of where we are located. And neurosurgery services are quite limited in the country. Yes, so people travel from afar, and when they come, they have problems getting accommodation because of the cost. We see people sleeping outside on the hospital compound, which is also not safe and healthy for people who have brought their children or their relatives for treatment for hydrocephalus and spina bifida.
This plight has culminated in the establishment of a House of Hope facility, a contribution of Child Health International, with collaboration from the Spina Bifida Hydrocephalus Foundation. Founder of the SBH Foundation, Patrick Yasuman, explains the facility has been told to provide temporal accommodation for the vulnerable children and their mothers while they seek health care. Apart from providing a temporal shelter, the House of Hope has a wound treatment room with resident medics, a play therapy room for the children, and a conference room to offer health care and livelihood training to the mothers.
House of Hope is a facility that is here to improve the management of spina bifida and hydrocephalus within Kumasi and its environs. So we established this facility that once after surgery, maybe after the child has been discharged, will come to the facility, stay there for further monitoring, which will go a long way to reduce the bill that they need to pay as a result of staying at the facility, in the hospital facility for long days.
This facility is expected to facilitate the full rehabilitation and healing of children living with lifelong conditions related to spina bifida and hydrocephalus. For Starr and GH1 News, Ivan Heathcote Fumado, Ultimate FM, Kumasi.
And that is how we draw the curtain on this edition of Starr Today. Thank you very much for your time. For more news updates, kindly visit starfm.com.gh. I am Tutuwaa Danso. This bulletin was produced by Eko Anan, Benjamin Saki, and Prince Essien, and Zulea, who also assisted. Thank you to Emmanuel Donko for making sure this bulletin was streamed on Facebook. We are back tomorrow with more news updates. Have a good evening.